The idea that a humble vitamin made in your skin could influence the fate of your heart might seem like an overreach, but that's exactly the hypothesis that's been gaining attention over the past 2 decades. Vitamin D, long known for its role in bone health, is increasingly being investigated as a possible player in cardiovascular well-being. From regulating blood pressure to influencing arterial flexibility, low levels of this sunshine vitamin have been associated with a range of heart-related concerns. But is this a solid medical fact or just another nutritional myth wrapped in a cardiology wish list? Let's start with the observational studies, the first breadcrumb trail that led scientists to believe there might be a link. Research has consistently found that people with low vitamin D levels tend to have a higher risk of developing hypertension, a key driver of heart disease. Some studies also show associations with increased arterial stiffness, higher coronary artery calcium scores, a marker of atherosclerosis, and greater risk of cardiovascular mortality. The relationship appears even more pronounced in older adults, individuals with obesity, and people of color living in low sunlight regions, groups more likely to have vitamin D deficiency. One proposed mechanism is that vitamin D plays a role in regulating the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, RAS, which controls blood pressure and fluid balance. When vitamin D is deficient, renin levels may increase, leading to higher blood pressure. There's also evidence that vitamin D affects endothelial function, how well blood vessels relax and contract, reduces inflammation, and influences the behavior of immune cells and smooth muscle in the arterial wall, all of which are central to the development of cardiovascular disease. Sounds convincing, right? But there's a wrinkle. Correlation isn't causation. People with low vitamin D might have other risk factors, less physical activity, poor diets, more chronic illness, less time spent outdoors, that also contribute to heart disease. It's hard to separate whether vitamin D is a true driver of cardiovascular decline or just a passenger tagging along for the ride. This is where randomized controlled trials, the gold standard of medical evidence, have tried to weigh in. The results, however, have been mixed at best. Large trials like the VITAL study, Vitamin D and Omega-3 trial, which followed over 25,000 adults, found no significant reduction in major cardiovascular events from daily vitamin D supplementation. Smaller trials targeting people with severe deficiency have shown modest improvements in blood pressure or arterial stiffness, but nothing conclusive enough to warrant broad medical claims. Part of the challenge is that vitamin D might be more of a background player than a starring role. It may not prevent heart disease in the general population, but could matter more in specific subgroups, those with profound deficiency, chronic inflammation, or metabolic dysfunction. There's also the possibility that vitamin D is a marker of health rather than a driver of it. In other words, people who get enough sun, exercise outdoors, and eat better tend to have higher vitamin D levels and also better cardiovascular outcomes. Despite the murky evidence, it's hard to completely dismiss the connection. Vitamin D is involved in dozens of cellular processes relevant to cardiovascular health, and the biological plausibility is strong. Plus, deficiency is widespread, especially in winter in higher latitudes and in individuals with darker skin. So while vitamin D might not be a miracle pill for heart disease, ensuring adequate levels is still a sensible goal, if only to support broader physiological health. In the end, the vitamin D heart disease link remains a tantalizing puzzle, part medical fact, part unresolved hypothesis. The evidence doesn't yet support supplementing vitamin D as a primary treatment for cardiovascular disease, but neither does it suggest we should ignore its role altogether. A healthy heart, like a healthy body, depends on many factors: blood pressure, cholesterol, lifestyle, genetics, and vitamin D may be one quiet thread in that complex tapestry. Not the cure, but perhaps a meaningful contributor.